This is ESPN 690 Game Day Live.
Sponsored by the Duuuval House.
Here's your host live from the Duuuval House, Brent Martineau.
Hey, everybody, welcome into a Sunday morning a little bit different than last Sunday morning. We had some rain showers, had to prep you for the weather. We don't have to worry about that here today. It is a beautiful day, a good football day here in Jacksonville. Doesn't mean it won't get a little warm inside that stadium a little bit later, but at least we've got ourselves a pretty good start. And we are at the foot of the Hart Bridge. We are at the Duuuval House, and looking forward to another morning of talking some Jags football, but also around the NFL, as we call it, ESPN 690's Game Day Live from the Duuuval House. Phillips and Hunt bringing you this along with Folio Weekly 2.0. And Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz here on a Sunday morning. Is this the morning? Is this the day the Jacksonville Jaguars end the streak? They have a chance today, if they lose one more, to get 18 games in a row, which would be the third longest losing streak of all time, tied with the Tennessee Titans. That is not something the Jaguars want to do. Of course, next up would be the Detroit Lions at 19 in a row, and still got a ways to go for the Tampa Bay Bucks at 26 in a row. Let's hope the Titans don't happen. Let's hope the Lions don't happen. Let's hope definitely the Bucks don't happen. Yikes. But that's the kind of company the Jags are keeping right now. If you go back to last year, 1-15, and obviously the first couple of games of this year, two different regimes. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to get off the schneid in terms of the win-loss column. This one might be a tough one to do because Arizona comes to town, and Arizona's good. Arizona's at a different place than the Jaguars are. They play in probably the best division in football. They have an electric offense. They have a quarterback playing very well. They have a lot of weapons, and they have a defense that people don't talk about because their offense is good. But this isn't like the first rendition or so of the Kansas City Chiefs where the defense, almost hurt them, and you wondered if it was going to hurt them so much that they could win it and be that good. This is a little different. I mean, the Cardinals defense has some big-time playmakers. Sure, J.J. Watt isn't J.J. Watt of old, but Chandler Jones is Chandler Jones, and actually more prolific in sack totals in his career than J.J. Watt. You combine the two, you got 203 sacks between them. And then Isaiah Simmons is a young player, but obviously a talented player. And then you also have in the back end Budda Baker, who many people believe is the best safety in the game. So Arizona pretty loaded up. The Jaguars have not been. Is this the week, though, the NFL kind of turns on its head and the Jags surprise? We kind of saw it yesterday in college football. Could we see it here today? The Jaguars are 7.5-point underdogs. Good morning, Casey Kurtz. Welcome to another Sunday in Jacksonville.
What up, Brent? How you doing? The shades are looking good, by the way. I should tell you.
Hey, listen, I had to go to the shades because it's bright out here.
Looks like it.
Almost didn't make it down here. I was behind the police escort. I think it was a Jags bus coming from wherever it was. It was only one bus. It wasn't all the buses. It was probably the slowest police escort I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The beauty of traveling with the Jags is the police escorts.
Yeah.
The beauty of traveling behind a Jags bus, well, there is none.
There's
because
not great.
It was awful. I mean, it was just slow, painful, everything.
Safety first, Brent. Safety first.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I've seen some. We have been on some of those buses, and again, the Jags, NFL teams, and probably other teams too, but NFL teams we know get the police escorts, to and from the stadium, from the hotel, and from the airport, and all that stuff. And we have seen some close calls over the years. People don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I get it. I would think it's a dangerous thing. I'm not sure the police actually like it. Because it's got to be – because you just don't know how people are going to react. And, we were stuck at a light, and it's okay, are they going to go through the light? They're behind us? Yeah, they kind of wanted to go through the light. Well, what are you supposed to do? I mean, where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you supposed to pull off to? You got two lanes stuck at a light.
Yeah, that's tough, especially with the buses. Because now it's not just a cop car; it's now the buses that got to get through.
Absolutely. So it's a tricky deal. But seriously, I think we're in Kansas City. I think this was the time we're in Kansas City, and there was a motorcycle that just hit, didn't have any clue what was going on, and actually hit the side of the bus.
Jeez.
But nobody got hurt or anything like that. But, I mean, it was like – I mean, we remember it clear as day. Like back, I mean, it's some 8, 9, 10 years ago now. So, but it's like they had – people have no idea. I mean, we've seen some almost bad things happen with the police escort. Anyway, this was easy. It just was a little slow getting into the stadium today.
Good.
But now everybody can be here, get here, and enjoy a good day. We had a good crowd last week down here at the Duuuval house and some tailgaters. That will happen about in the next hour. And they had to fight some raindrops. Not this morning. It's just absolutely beautiful. So we will look forward to a good game day here in Jacksonville. Can they pull the upset? Can they pull the upset, Casey Kurtz? That's the question. Listen, of course they can. It's the NFL. Did you watch what happened yesterday in college football? Nobody would have predicted some of the scores, some of the close nature of some of those games, and then some of the upsets maybe. Even some wouldn't have predicted. It's a little different in the NFL. Each week you can have that stuff. And, by the way, survival pool people know this, that one of those times or one of those weeks it's really batty and crazy. Could this be the one that the Jags kind of turn some heads and eliminate a lot of people from a survival pool? Because I bet a lot of people will be picking the Arizona Cardinals today.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are definitely an option on my radar. I have a problem betting against the Jags because it seems to never work out for me, so I don't know if I'll go that route. But can they pull the upset? I mean, I hear what you're saying, Brent, but, man, I would be, I think, floored. I don't know how surprised, like whatever adjective you want to use for surprise, that's what I would be. Only because it just looks like these are, even if the Jags won that game against Houston, I would still say this because this just seems like two teams that are on totally different paths right now. Yeah,
I think they're playing at a different level. It seems like Arizona is off to a really good start. Like sometimes you wonder, like the Tennessee Titans, right? The first 6 quarters they played, that wasn't like pick up from last year or last couple of years. That was what's going on.
Yeah.
And then Derrick Henry turned it on. Some teams just go right into it. Like Chiefs are just going to score points, right? The Ravens have seemingly just scored points. The Raiders have hit another step with Derek Carr. So you wonder where teams are going to be offensively, I think, coming out of the gates. Well, Arizona is just kind of rolled right into this next development of who they are. Now, there's a chance they don't have DeAndre Hopkins today. And that would be a big deal because DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is the best receiver in the game. I think he's the toughest guy to guard in the game. And so we can debate numbers, all this stuff, fantasy, everything. I get it. But the guy's got unbelievable hands. He's dangerous. I think even when Jalen Ramsey was here, he was difficult to guard. He was going to be 8 catches and 95 yards even against Jalen Ramsey sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing to watch here. Now, a lot of the reports out of Arizona are this guy doesn't sit out games. This guy's going to play. And then I think I saw Schefter this morning say probably going to give it a go, but not 100% going to give it a go. I had heard Friday night, in fact, you were with me, Casey, a little rumbling that some folks on the Jags didn't think that he was going to play, or it might be very iffy for him to play after he missed practice on Friday. So, anyway, we'll see. I'm not saying that's a difference maker in the game, but it certainly would help. I mean, Bradley Chubb wasn't able to give it a go 100%, then didn't even make it through the first half last week. And Denver's pass rush was just okay against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, certainly you take a weapon away from Kyler Murray. What does that do for, say, a guy like Rondale Moore really beating you? I mean, that's a huge dynamic if you take DeAndre Hopkins out of the fold. And maybe even it's big if he's a little less than 100%, and they're just going to kind of use him sparingly. So I think something to watch this morning. And as the inactives come out, that's usually about 11:30. Keep an eye on DeAndre Hopkins for the Arizona Cardinals. That could change a little bit on how we feel about this Arizona offense. But the big thing about this Arizona offense is Kyler Murray. And how the Jaguars choose to scheme against this Arizona offense today is going to be interesting. They want to blitz, right? They want to come after you. They're going to take chances. That's Joe Cullen. That's Baltimore's defense. That's what he's brought here. They're multiple, 3-4, 4-3, all that stuff. They've shown that. They've actually got some more pressure the first couple weeks. But is that the smartest thing to do against Kyler Murray, or do you really play this patient defense where you're not playing tag on the playground with Kyler Murray and then becoming a highlight reel for all the shows later tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because obviously the Jags in the past had trouble with a guy like Marcus Mariota, and we've talked about it Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690 3-6. But he scares me, Brent, and I really don't know what approach you take here, because I think the other thing with Arizona is they don't run the ball with their running backs extremely well, and the Jags have been good at stopping the run this year. So you would have to think, one would think that at least early in the game, their main rushing target would be Kyler Murray. And it's tough. I would say that they should at least consider getting after him early, maybe to, if at anything, get home at least once, hopefully twice. I mean, well, actually, let's just say hopefully once, but hopefully twice, and then maybe that deters the Cardinals from running the ball with Murray, hopefully. But I would say, and I'd like to get your thought on this, toughest quarterback to plan for in the league, because with Lamar, you at least know he's going to run a ton. With Kyler, you don't know that 100%, but the option is there, so you have to then, and he can throw the ball better than Lamar, so you then have to plan for both of those options.
Yeah, it's a good call. Like, what's crazy is, I think Kyler Murray's ran for like 30, 40 yards this season. It hasn't even in the first couple of games. He's not trying to run. Austin talked about this on our show during the week, that, he's really – he's trying to be more of a pocket passer, or at least stay behind the line of scrimmage. Probably some of that is to stay healthy. And they have so many weapons that's cool. You can do that. But I know what you're saying here. I think it's less the run. See, I think there's something to the psyche about playing the Cardinals. I think every time I watch a Cardinals highlight, I see, holy cow, look at him. Look at Kyler Murray. It's like a video game, man. I mean, he is going left. He dropped back. He went over to the right. He found a wide open guy. I mean, the play lasted 8 or 9 seconds. It's impossible to defend. I mean, you can't do that. So, do you challenge the mental clock like some have done with Patrick Mahomes in the past? Just kind of let him sit back there, and then he sooner or later would just throw it. Because it's like, I got to get rid of the ball. What am I doing back here, Yeah. And so I think there's a little bit of a mental gymnastics kind of game you could play with Kyler Murray here. And the psyche of a play like Kyler Murray running all over the field and back and forth, and we see it on all the highlights, and then we talk about it, like, dang, man, that was good, is it really, I think, energizes the Arizona side of things. And I think it really deflates the opponent's side of things. In this case would be the Jaguars. So I would really try to avoid that. I've got my eyes on that today. Like, I think they're going to score points. I mean, Arizona's pretty good offensively. But I think the fewer of those kind of plays, and maybe even none of those kind of run-around, highlight reel plays that the Jags can be a part of this afternoon, I think actually helps them out from a psyche standpoint. I'd almost rather see Kyler Murray pick up a 20-yard run than go run around for 20 yards sideways and find somebody for a 25-yard pass. I think that's what everybody's waiting for with Kyler Murray. I don't know if either one makes the difference in the football game, but I think from a psychological standpoint, I think that's kind of what he wants to do, and I'm curious if you can just keep him locked in. We've seen this game plan before where you don't really rush. You don't really go 100% and rush and pin your ears back. And it happened here back in 2016 with Aaron Rodgers. That was a game plan, and it was somewhat effective. Again, Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay scored, but they didn't have those kind of plays. The idea there was to keep Aaron Rodgers, from escaping the pocket. Mm-hmm. And ironically, he still was able to run it in from like the 8-yard line. They did a poor job one time, and I think he still got in on the south end part of the end zone, south part of the field here. And so it can still happen, but how disciplined can the Jags be? I think that's a tough thing, too. Like, if that's what you're trying to do, these guys are born and bred to go after the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
I mean, go get the quarterback. I want sacks. I want to be a team that pressures. If you pressure, you force turnovers. Well, that's part 2 of everything going on. The Jaguars have yet to force a turnover in all the preseason games and now the first 2 regular season games. But if you sit back there and just kind of let him do his thing, are you going to force the issue and force turnovers? And Kyler Murray, by the way, in his career, he's not afraid to turn the ball over from time to time. So
Sure.
He'll take some chances. So this is a guy that you can get to turn the ball over. So it's going to be fascinating how disciplined the Jags want to be and can be attacking Kyler Murray today. But don't be surprised if they play a very, what Austin called vanilla defense, which I would say is just a less aggressive defense to go after Kyler Murray. I think that's watch that in the first couple of series of this game this afternoon on Fox 30, because that's going to be a big part of how this game goes, I think.
Let me ask you this real quick. I know what your answer is going to be if DeAndre Hopkins is in the game, and the answer to that question will be no, you don't trust him. Do you trust the Jags DBs to, if you play that kind of defense and you let Kyler Murray just kind of hang out in the pocket, do the thing, make sure he doesn't run on you, do you trust the DBs that'll be playing for the Jags to cover A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, and Rondale Moore?
Yeah, I probably not for that. First of all, I think it's a very hard thing to ask. I think it's hard to ask a corner to cover somebody for 4, 5, 6 seconds. And that's what you might be doing. So, no, I don't have a ton of confidence they can do that. But I think if they play this style of defense, what I think you've got to remind yourself is, okay, they might give up some yards. They might give up some completions. But do they give up the home run ball? And the problem in the first 2 weeks is the Jags have given up the home run ball to Tyrod Taylor and Teddy Bridgewater. And those have led to touchdowns. I don't think the Jags mind giving up the underneath stuff. This might revert. Again, if you go this style, we'll see what they do. But if you do this and you kind of change a little bit for a week of who you really are and want to be because you think this works best against Kyler Murray could easily throw for 300 yards, and he still might throw for a couple touchdowns. But I think the drives are more sustained, Casey. You shorten the game. You make them go 10, 12 plays, and maybe you bend but don't break, and you force them to kick field goals in the red zone. So that's the idea. So, yeah, I think they'll this isn't going to be like they're going to be all over them and they're not, it's going to be 50% completion rate for Kyler Murray. I don't think that would be the idea of it. I think everything will go back to kind of the way the Jags have played a lot over the last 8 years, and that is keep everything in front of you and see if they can put 10, 12 plays and execute for a long drive and see if they can get in the end zone or they have to kick a field goal. And then if they do that, and that's the style they go and choose to play, and who knows if they will, then that would be on the offense to try to keep up. And either way, it's going to be on the offense to try to keep up today. This, to me, is less about the defense, ironically, today, because I really think Arizona's just a better football team. Mm-hmm. I think today has a lot to do with the Jaguars' offense and what they look like. Can they play keep away? Can Trevor Lawrence play his best game yet? Can they have long, sustained drives? Can they give the ball to James Robinson? I think right now there's a lot of questions about their offense. And keep in mind, their offense is the one that should be the stronger unit, even with a rookie quarterback, than the defense. The defense has been awful the last couple of years, and they're still not like championship caliber defense, even with the pieces they picked up. And I think they're still trying to figure things out. So this really is an offensive game. My eyes are all right there on Trevor Lawrence in this offense, and really Darrell Bevel, if he can get this offense in a rhythm and keep up with Arizona.
Yeah, I agree with you there. One other last thought on the defense we were just talking about. You have, like I mentioned, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore might be the fastest guy in the league, so it'll be interesting to see their speed versus the speed that Urban Meyer has put together with Tyson Campbell and those guys on defense. So I think that'll be interesting just to see from a flat-out race standpoint who's faster. But, yeah, going to the Jags on offense, obviously the Cardinals gave up 33 points to the Vikings last week. I would say that the Jags offense is not the Vikings offense, but at the same time, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, I think there's some comparables there. Obviously, Kirk's been in the league longer, but the Jags should be able to score points this week, whether it be with James Robinson, whether it be with Trevor Lawrence. The Jags have to score points, and if you can play any kind of defense and the Jags can not turn the ball over and score points, then all of a sudden it's a close game because obviously last week 34-33. So you should be able to score points on this team. If the Jags can't score points, then we have a problem.
Well, yeah, and I mean the offense already has had some issues. It's been sputtery. It's had some moments like last week to open the game against Denver, but it really hasn't put together, I would say, even a half of football that's been good. It's just been very all over the place. And that's maybe a little bit to expect with a rookie quarterback. But it also has to do with the offensive coordinator getting on the same page and the idea that they are not getting two players, in my opinion, going that have proven that they can carry the load. And that's James Robinson, DJ Chark. Hey, let's take a break, Casey. When we come back, other side, let's talk about the offensive side of things for the Jags. We'll go around the league. We'll check out some of the stars of Saturday that could be playing on Sunday at some point. We'll hear from some of the Jaguars throughout the week and what they're saying about this game, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals and Jaguars game will be on Fox 30 today at 1 o'clock. We'll have countdown to kickoff at 11:30 on CBS 47. So we'll go from here. We go right until 11 o'clock, run over to the stadium, do a little TV. Got a football game, and then all TV all day. And then tomorrow we talk all about it right here on ESPN 690. So next 36 hours, always fun here in the River City. Okay, maybe not always fun. A win would be fun.
Yeah.
That'd be a little something different.
Be good radio, Brent.
It's been 17 Mondays in a row talking about Jags losses. That's not fun. That's not fun. We'll see what the Jags can do as we are live on the foot of the Hart Bridge. We're down the Hart Bridge. We're at the Duuuval House. We call it ESPN 690 Game Day live from the Duuuval House. Phillips and Hunt Folio 2.0. Come on out. Say hello. And we'll be here until 11 o'clock. We'll be right back.
The main thing is I'm going to keep going after it. You know, the main thing, I just got to keep going after it, trying to get it to click, man. Eventually, that ball is going to stick to my hands. You know, I got to continue to do more at practice. I'm catching punt returns now, trying to find the flight of the ball, judging that. You know, I'm on the jump machine, the tennis machine, whatever it takes, I'm going to figure it out. I feel like that's the best thing about my game. I never feel like I know it all. I always feel like there's room for improvement. So I'm going to figure it out, you know, and once that ball continues to touch my hands, which is good, I just got to hold on to it. So I'm working on that.
Well, that is Shaq Griffin on Jaguars All Access. So we do that each and every Thursday, Fox 30, 7 o'clock. Now, I say that, and this week's a little bit different. And we also have a site change going for the rest of the year. It'll be Wednesday this week because the Jags play 2 games in 5 days. They'll be in Cincinnati on Thursday. We'll be there for it. But The show obviously won't be on Thursday. Show will be moved to Wednesday this week, and we're moving it to String Sports Brewery in Springfield, which is about 2 miles from the stadium. And we've been doing our radio show there, again, usually on Thursdays. For this week, it'll be on Wednesday. So come on out, 7 o'clock. Shaquille Griffin, I don't want to false advertise here. He will not be there. We will be there. We will continue to do Shaq virtual. And then we have tomorrow night, Jags Report Live. Jihad Ward will join us. That's at Sneakers at the beach. And Jihad Ward will be with us for that show, live and in person. So just a couple of programming notes. But String Sports Brewery, we're taking Jaguars All Access out of the stadium now after it's been there for about a month to String Sports Brewery on Thursdays all year, except for this week, which will be Wednesday. That will be at 7 o'clock, so hope to see you out there. We do our show on access days from Strings anyway, and you can catch it and come on out 3 to 6. I got a lot of beers over there I've been buying, Casey.
Yeah, I was just about to say, if you're listening right now and you listen to us during the week, Brent might buy you a beer. So just you got to tweet him. You got to stay in his mentions. He gets a lot of mentions now. His phone goes off nonstop. But if you stay in his mentions, he might buy you a beer.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to let my man Moose know I bought him a beer because he's the best and legendary Moose. But if the Yankees win today and sweep the Red Sox, I'm pulling that off the board. So I just want to let Moose know that. I don't know if he's listening.
He better get there then pregame, I guess.
My gosh, a Red Sox last night, of all people, Stanton. All right, we'll talk about that on Monday. This is a football show. And we get you ready for a game day. We call it ESPN690 Game Day Live right here at the Duuuval House, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt. And also Folio Weekly 2.0. Good to be out here. Beautiful morning. This is what it's all about. This is great to be here in Jacksonville on a beautiful Sunday morning against the Cardinals. Good football game. And now let's see if the Jags can pull off an upset, get some momentum around here, get some of this bad taste and negative talk around town out. And it's tough. It's really hard. 378 days. We'll do it. 17 losses in a row. You're entering crazy territory with Tennessee Titans and Detroit Lions on the horizon in terms of losing streaks. But you get a new opportunity if you're the Jaguars. And they look like they're strong inside their locker room. And I really like Urban Meyer's tone all week. I thought he was way better this week than he was after week 1. So I think that bodes well for the Jags. Listen, I think Urban Meyer's a good coach. I think he's going to get this thing figured out. I think Trevor Lawrence is a good player. I think the Jags have some good players. I think they don't have as many good players as Arizona. I think this is a hard game for them. I would have said that if they were 2-0, quite frankly. So I think this is a tough game. But they also really are desperate for a win. And I do think Arizona's a bit vulnerable. I don't think they're just the business-like team yet. Brent Martineau along with Casey Kurtz. And you get what I'm saying there, Casey? Mm-hmm. Like Patriots, when they got cooking, right, they could play bad football and still win. They just knew how to win. I think the Chiefs are a little bit like that right now. No, I know they lost last week, but they lost to another team that kind of knows how to win. The Ravens. The Steelers, even when they stunk a couple years ago, would they win 8 games?
Yeah.
Like, they were terrible. Like, they really were not that good. I mean, their defense was pretty good, but they couldn't do anything on offense, and they still won 8 games in the NFL. So, like, you have teams like that. Seattle's like that. You know, the Bucs are now like that with Brady, everywhere he goes. And so I think there are teams that just, they build it kind of into their DNA where they just know how to win. And then there are other teams that obviously just know how to lose. Cleveland's been there. Buffalo's been there. Heck, the Rams were there for a long time before this late turnaround now the last few years. The Jags obviously are still there. The Titans were there for a long time. The Lions are still there. So there are just teams like that that just seem to find ways to lose. But then there's those that you're trying to figure out. And Arizona is one of those teams. Can be very good. But I just don't know if they're yet to the point of being businesslike where they can play bad football and still come away with a win. And let's be honest, Casey, they shouldn't have won that game last week. I mean, that was a 37-yard field goal in the NFL that Minnesota missed. I mean, the Cardinals should come in here 1-1, and they should have lost. Just because they're exciting doesn't mean they're invincible. And I think Arizona could be – I mean, they could be one of those teams that doesn't show up every week is my point, and maybe they won't show up today.
I agree with you what you're saying. They don't know yet, but I think they're getting there because, yes – a guy did miss a field goal last week that gave them the win. But at the same time, you know, they were down early in that game and they fought back and they held on. So I think they're on the verge of becoming that team that knows how to win and can win the games they're supposed to win. They were supposed to win last week. They do get it done. That's why I think this game is important because they can only build on that resume to get to a point where we say, you know what, they are a team that wins these games, and this is a game they should win. So I think this says a lot about Arizona and what they can be for the rest of this year and going forward to turn into a team that is wins games they're supposed to win. And maybe they got that on their mind and they're pressing because this is another game they're supposed to win. They had a game they were supposed to win last week, and it took down to the wire. So that's what you can hope for if you're a Jags fan, that they know they need to win, and they're going to press a little bit, but it looks like they're building towards that team that wins when they're supposed to win.
Yeah, they could. And here's the deal on that, okay? Where are you on Cliff Kingsbury? Because he's obviously put together a very nice offense. He had a vision for this. I give a lot of credit to the front office of the Cardinals as well. Shared this story earlier in the week. I was in Gainesville in the press box a few years back, and that's when the Cardinals weren't good yet. And I forget exactly what year it was. Would have been 19, so just a few years ago. And I was talking to somebody from Arizona, and I was just asking them about, all the stuff going on in Jacksonville and blah, blah, blah. And I said, so what do you think over there, man? He's like, well, I'm not sure. We got a lot of work to do. I'm not sure about the whole roster and all this stuff, but I know one thing, really two things. I like the coach and I like the quarterback. And they knew that. They loved that. They were all in on that. And so they were right. And they made it. Remember, that was a bold move now to get rid of Josh Rosen and just go ahead and move on and get Kyler Murray, and a guy that might play baseball and a guy that plays a little different than a lot of other folks in the NFL. I always say it takes a bold move to change things around in an organization. And that was a bold move, believe it or not. It looks easy right now, but it was bold. And also, they got Cliff Kingsbury, who had a losing record in college.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's my point on the Kingsbury front. Can he take this team to that level? Because he hasn't proven that. I mean, if that was Urban Meyer over there in Arizona, you'd say, hell, heck yeah, man, this guy knows how to win. This guy has been there. I get it. But Kingsbury hasn't earned that. He's earned an attaboy right now for the offense that they've built, the help of the talent acquisition, the vision of it. So you got to give him a lot of credit. I just don't know how good he is. And that's going to be a big part of how good they get. Because, again, I think Arizona can be very good this year and still finish fourth in the NFC West. Yeah. That's how good that division is.
No, I agree. And to answer your question, I think it's kind of mesmerizing that he is good, just because I think part of it is we're in Jacksonville and they're in Arizona, right? So those are not close together. So we don't watch Cliff Kingsbury under a microscope. All we see is, oh, the Cardinals won, oh, the Cardinals lost. But I think to take I don't even know if I guess it was a chance on Kyler Murray, but to take that chance and he's good and it's worked out and Cliff Kingsbury is set. If it didn't work out, obviously I think they'd have a new coach right now, but you got to give some credit. Also, they somehow stole DeAndre Hopkins from Houston for just nothing, and obviously he had a part to play in that. So I think I'm not sold on him, to answer your question, but at this point, I don't know how I'm not, but I'm not, because they're winning games, they're taking chances, they have an explosive offense, but I'm not sold yet. But I don't think a win against the Jags is going to sell me either. I got to see more through the rest of the season on Cliff Kingsbury.
Hey, it's ESPN690 Game Day live at the Duuuval House, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0. Police Athletic League is today's fundraising recipient, so come on out. Bartender tips and other dollars that are raised here this morning and getting into the game for kickoff will go to the Police Athletic League. Their tent and information right here at the Duuuval House as well. There'll be some music a little bit later on, so this is a fun place to be on a game day. Come on out, say hello, beep the horn, wave, and check it out right here on a Sunday morning. All right, man. James Robinson, speaking of houses, if I had one to bet, I'd bet he has 20 touches today. I mean, they have to get him 20 touches. He has 19 touches in the first two games, if my math is correct, combined.
Yeah.
He needs 20 today for the Jaguars to have a chance. I just said two things. James Robinson will get 20 touches. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, has his best game. Now, listen, you don't have to over-dramatize this. That's not saying a whole lot.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence has looked good at times. He's made some really good throws and good plays, and you're like, wow, man, I like it. I can see it. But he also has 5 interceptions. He's missed receivers. His 50% completion rate is not good, especially in today's world. But at any world, 50% is not good enough. So Trevor Lawrence having his best day, it might not take much. It's only a 3-game sample. But I think this is his most complete game. I think this is his best game. I think the offense does work better today, and they grow toward that. And I think a lot of it has to do, Casey, with the fact that they get the ball to James Robinson because they just haven't done it for a myriad of reasons. But it's really inexplicable that they don't give it to him more, and they have to get it to James Robinson. I believe they'll do that today. They'll force the issue and get it to number 25.
And you have to, right? I mean, we've talked about it at length for now 2 weeks. I would say, is the best player on your team in general, which is crazy for where he came from. But you have to give him the ball. And what I'm concerned about, to be honest with you, Brent, is you defer, the Cardinals get the ball, and they go down and score and panic. I hope that doesn't happen, but even if you get down early, you have to run the ball with this guy. It's hard to explain at this point why they haven't done it, and we've tried for like 2 weeks, me, you, and Austin. We've tried to figure out why they're not running the ball, and it just isn't a thing. So you have to, I agree with you, you have to give him the ball as much as possible. If you're down, if you're tied, if you're up, it doesn't really matter. Even if you get down a lot, you got to keep giving him the ball because this guy has a chance to get you in the game. At a minimum, take something off Trevor Lawrence and just let this guy run the ball and do his thing.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a great call you just made, by the way. Now you got me thinking about a damn coin toss. I mean, come on.
Hey.
We're getting a little carried away here. But I do think for this football team, who kind of has lost, they were out of it against Houston at halftime. They lost a ton of momentum with missed field goals in the second quarter, and their offense was sputtering, and Denver got the ball and made it a 10-point game, which felt almost insurmountable in the third quarter. I think you're onto something there. I think to keep them on schedule, to try to have a drive like they did last week out of the gates where you chew up a bunch of clock. Remember, against Denver, there were 2 drives in the first quarter, essentially. That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jags would welcome that again today. You want to keep the ball out of Arizona's hands and keep your defense off the field. I kind of like where you're going with that. I don't want to overplay that. I still, listen, if they defer, it's fine. I mean, you still got to stop them. But I like what you're saying there. And I think being in the lead is big. The Jags felt like see, when you lose a lot of games, you're just not in the lead, right? I mean, the Jags haven't been in the lead much at all over this stretch over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, very minimal have they led. I mean, I'm talking like crazy kind of stats.
It's hard to remember times when they did lead.
Well, but they did last week, and they led for a while last week. It was 7-3 midway through the second quarter, and the Jags felt like, remember that play to DJ Chark that drew pass interference?
Mm-hmm.
They felt like if he doesn't get grabbed, that's a touchdown. Like,
right.
That was bombs away touchdown. And now they're up 14-3. So it's almost like the pass interference hurt them because then they go and miss a kick.
Sure.
And so instead of being 10-3, where you at least the worst case you're going to be tied or something like that, no. They then trailed going into the half. Well, they actually missed 2 kicks, so they really still could have been in the lead or should have been tied going into the half. They also thought they missed another play in that second quarter that should have been 6, and they didn't connect on it. They really felt like 2 touchdowns they had, boom, right there, easy. One was a penalty, so it wasn't. I mean, that's just maybe a good play by Denver. But the other one they just didn't connect on. So, to your point, if you get up, well, then the opportunity for you to create mistakes or one mistake or a lucky play or then cashing in on your next series and now going up 14-3 doesn't guarantee you win the game, especially against a team like this who can really, light it up. Denver was different. If you go up 14-3 against Denver, I feel pretty good because now you're starting to put Denver in a tough situation. But 14-3 against Arizona, I'm not sure I'd say, Jags going to win this one going away. That's probably different. So, but it really speaks to the point of hard to get turnovers when you're trailing all the time. Also, if you could just get up and force the issue a little bit more, there's some sense in that because then you can run the football and give it to James and chew clock, get him rolling, all those things. But if there's one thing that I've been stuck on this week, I keep coming back to it. I don't know what part of Action Sports Jacks on ESPN690 from 3 to 6 we talked about this. But I remember saying DJ Chark and James Robinson through 2 games have basically done nothing. Done nothing. James Robinson, not to his own fault. Well, he had a couple drop passes in Houston, but they just haven't given it to him. DJ Chark has really got off to a slow start and a big year for him. He's only got 3 catches through 2 games. So they've done nothing. And they are Pro Bowl caliber guys based on their resume over the last couple of years. So to your point, Casey, you take maybe their best offensive player still is James Robinson. You can make the case. Now, Marvin Jones playing pretty good football too right now. But you can make the case that it's James Robinson. And DJ Chark, who should be one of your best players and has the resume to do so, and they've done nothing in 2 games. I can't get off that part of it. If you want to get your offense going, if you want to get the young quarterback going, well, Darrell Bevell has to get those 2 guys going. And I think DJ Chark and James Robinson, and especially Robinson, because they're just not giving it to him, are the big factors in today's game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, more so than Marvin Jones, more so than the offensive line, more so than even Trevor Lawrence. I think this game today and getting back on track is about DJ Chark and James Robinson and getting those guys that have proven to be effective players and Pro Bowl caliber players in this league. And I understand that James didn't make the Pro Bowl, but we all know he put up numbers to make the Pro Bowl. He was a top 100 player this past year. Then I think it all centers around that, Austin. If this offense does do well today, I think you're going to look in the box score, and you're going to see James Robinson played pretty well, and I think you're going to see DJ Chark played pretty well.
Yeah, and here's what I don't understand about the James Robinson situation, and no disrespect to Carlos Hyde, but if James Robinson's getting the little amount of carries he is, why is Carlos Hyde still, getting carries? Why is James Robinson not getting all the carries? Again, no disrespect, but James Robinson is James Robinson and Carlos Hyde is Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, I get that. I think they're really – I think they're out of whack, okay? I think Darrell Bevell's out of whack in terms of how many touches the running backs are getting. But I think if you look inside the numbers don't look as glaring as we think they do in terms of the snap total. I think James Robinson's out on the field 3/4 of the time. And if you do go back to last year, the criticism we had last year is, listen, James was great. But you don't want one guy taking 93% of the load back there. And I think they're trying to salvage that. It's a long season, especially at the running back position. And so I think they're trying to pace James Robinson and balance the Hyde. And they like Hyde. But I think the Hyde thing might have been a little bit overdone early on. I think it's more just Hyde would be fine. Nobody would be talking about Hyde if James Robinson had more touches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's stealing the touches. I think they're just not giving it to James when he's in the game.
That's also true. Yeah. I mean, there's only so many ways we can say give him the ball. So just give him the ball. That's what everybody wants to see. I think, honestly, all the Jags fans in attendance today, if James Robinson scores a touchdown, the place is going to erupt just because he finally got the ball. You know what I mean? And it's just – You got to give him the ball. If you're winning, if you're losing, it doesn't matter. Just please give him the ball. We need something. And all fantasy implications out of it, by the way. I just want to see him get the ball. He's a good player. He deserves it. And you don't want to get this guy, because I'm not saying I know anything about James Robinson, so don't take it from that. But this guy's obviously talented and is a high-tier running back in this league. You want to give him the ball so he doesn't get maybe upset about the situation and want to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I tweeted a little earlier. I said James Robinson has 20 catches this afternoon. I meant touches.
Well, that would be something.
Catches, yeah. Hey, texting and driving is dangerous. Tweeting and hosting a show is also dangerous.
You've gotten good at it, though.
Yeah, I've had a lot of practice.
You're pretty much a pro, yeah.
I've had a lot of practice, but sometimes I don't catch. I just go, man. I just hit send, and somebody fired back, said, that's a lot of catches for James Robinson.
Hey, the PPR fantasy owners were pretty happy when they saw your tweet. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, they were pretty happy, no doubt about it. Hey, let's take a break, all right? We are live from the Duuuval house. It's ESPN690 Game Day Live. Second time we've done the show. Man, we're having a blast with it, too. Come off the Hart Bridge. You know the house been teal. John Phillips and Hunt, they put this thing together. Police Athletic League, the beneficiary from some charity dollars being raised today. Folio Weekly 2.0. We're having a blast. It's a beautiful day in Jacksonville. Maybe it's a game day win. Maybe it's the time. The Jags get off the schneid. 378 days, 17 losses in a row. Is this the day? Stop on by, say hello. We're at the Duuuval house, and we'll be here until 11 o'clock, then go inside the stadium for some TV with countdown to kickoff at 11:30 on CBS 47. Of course, you can watch the game on Fox 30 at 1 o'clock. Arizona Cardinals, Jacksonville Jaguars, Week 3 of the NFL season. What else is happening around the NFL? We go there when we come back on ESPN 690.
Oh, yeah, man. I feel like, it's a big step. It's a lot of work to do, you know what I'm saying? So we just got to keep working, you know what I mean? We're dealing with a little adversity right now, but at the end of the day, it's all about growing. I feel the growth in this team. So, we just got to keep it pushing, man. It's a lot of NFL teams that been through situations like this, you know what I'm saying? And to come to find out they beat their division to go to the playoffs. So, it's a learning process.
That is Jihad Ward from Jags Report Live last Monday at Sneakers. We'll be there tomorrow with Jihad. By the way, James Robinson's scheduled to join us throughout the season as well. Just getting some of the shows with Jihad Ward. And by the way, it's really cool for me. I love watching this stuff. Jihad Ward isn't going to be a Pro Bowl player for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I think he was brought here to help kind of create what Joe Cullen wants to create. Obviously, spent some time in Baltimore, helped stop the run. He played like half the snaps last week, and he's going to be a run guy, probably not a splashy guy, big plays, all that stuff. But he has this fantastic personality, so we're like, hey, we can get this guy on the show. Well, the debut was 2 Mondays ago for him, and he did a really nice job. I mean, I was like, all right, this is going to work. This is going to be good. Because you never know. You just never know until you get a guy out there. And he could be great personality and all this stuff and not like the camera or whatever. But the step he took from week 1 to last week was incredible. Like, he was so good last week.
Yeah.
And so Jihad Ward's fun. And he's a really cool guy. Come on out, Sneakers. I know there's a little bit of a back and forth with him and Jags Twitter, and I think rightfully so. Some other folks kind of like, all right, you guys overplayed that a little bit. He was sharing some of his love with the Ravens and his former Ravens players and all of that. But Jihad Ward's a good dude, and come on out. Sneakers tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Fox 30. Jihad Ward will be there. We'll be there. If you can't be there, you can watch it on Fox 30. But we'd like you to get out and hopefully be after a win for the Jags. So that'd be cool. If they beat the Cardinals, maybe Jihad Ward makes a big play today. We'll have him out there tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Jack's Beach at Sneakers. Brent Martineau here. Casey Kurtz back in the studio, pushing all the buttons. We call it ESPN690 Game Day Live from the Duuuval house, right on the foot of the Hart Bridge. Just saw the Arizona Cardinals arrive. Went right by the house, pulled into TIAA Bank. The Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, will he play? J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Buda Baker. Oh, man. The list goes on and on. Rondale Moore, they are here. They have arrived. They are going to show up for a 1 o'clock kick.
Dang it.
Dang it. They're going to be here. We're going to have football today in Jacksonville, and the Arizona Cardinals have arrived. So come on out, say hello. A lot of the funds today goes to our charity recipient, Police Athletic League. Not that it costs you to get in here, by the way. You can come on over and say hello. But you can throw tips and some dollars that way to the Police Athletic League, who also is here at the Duuuval house today. So it's been a lot of fun. This is week 2 of this experiment for us. There's going to be many weeks of it. All the home games this year will be right here at the Duuuval house, brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0. Let's go around the NFL. We'll talk more about the Cardinals and Jags coming up, of course, today. But did you see this story out of Dallas, the Collins suspension that he tried to bribe?
Yeah.
The story is he tried to bribe the whoever was doing the drug test.
Yeah. Yeah, not a great look, Brent. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not.
That was a good bid, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the optics. If you were covering it, how would you break that story?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is a report, so I guess we got to be a little careful there. But Schefter says Dallas Cowboys Lowell Collins attempted to bribe NFL drug test collector, and players can't be suspended for positive marijuana tests under the NFL's collective bargaining agreement. That's new. But Collins' issue was multiple mistests and trying to bribe the test collector, sources said. So it's almost like hard to get busted, but he got busted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and he's an interesting guy in the first place, right? He was from LSU and didn't end up getting drafted because of the off-the-field issues, and now he turns out to be one of the better players in the league at his position. So interesting story for his story just in general, and then this itself is an interesting story. But in my opinion, optics probably not great on this one.
No, Dalvin Cook, by the way, fantasy owners, keep an eye on it. It looks like the reports out of Minnesota unlikely to play today against the Seattle Seahawks. And that's been a little bit of an issue with Dalvin in his career, right? I mean, some of the injuries, you hate to see it, but talented back. Last year was terrific. When he's in there, terrific. But a little bit of not as drastic as, say, a Saquon Barkley, but kind of has that feel to it where it's like if these guys could stay on the field, they'd be like historically good, you know?
Yeah, and it's from a fantasy implication. It's crazy that the number 1 and 2 picks in almost every draft would have been Christian McCaffrey and now Dalvin Cook. But if you're a Dalvin Cook fantasy owner and you're playing daily, Alexander Madison, better pick him up. You better have him in daily because Dalvin Cook, as you just alluded to, has missed some games in his career. This is not a first, and it won't be a last. Madison has been good in fill-in duty for Dalvin Cook. He scores touchdowns when he fills in, so it's not good for Dalvin Cook and for the Minnesota Vikings to win a football game, but they have a capable backup ready to come in.
All right, Casey Kurtz, if I give you can't take, obviously, the Jags, and you can't, and you probably wouldn't anyway, but you can't take the Bucs and the Rams game today across the NFL. If so, because that's the game of the day, right? I mean, that's one everybody's. That's a fun game, and you get one other game today that you're like, I can't wait to see that. I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Which game are you taking?
Yeah,
game to watch.
You know,
without the Bucs Rams being a part of it.
Sure,
you also, by the way, you don't get to, like tomorrow, the Monday night game. Which you probably wouldn't pick either.
I would not. I hate to. It's kind of chalk, but it's kind of not. Give me the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Oh, I don't think that's a chalk game. I think a lot of people would go Packers 49ers. So, no, I think you're good there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just interested because Justin Herbert interests me even more than Patrick Mahomes, mostly because I know what Patrick Mahomes is going to do. Obviously, the Chargers lose to the Cowboys late last week on the field goal, but there are some thought by others that are not me, but me as well, that the Chargers can be competitive in this game, and the Chargers may be a little bit ahead of schedule where people believe they would be in terms of their playoff implications and whatnot. So I think obviously they have to go to Kansas City. That will not be easy. Obviously the Chiefs are at least, at a minimum, a top 3 team in the league. So I want to see how the Chargers react to that because Keenan Allen is quietly one of the best receivers in the league. You got Herbert. You got Eckler, who could have a massive day because of the Chiefs' defense and what they do. So I think that intrigues me. And on the Chiefs side, I want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He has not been good, frankly.
No, he really hasn't.
And I want to see, for my selfish belief of fantasy, but I want to see if he can get back on track for where he was the start of last year because this guy was a first-round pick.
All right, so you go Chargers-Chiefs. I think that's a really good call. That's a good one. It's sleepy. I don't think a lot of people would say that, but I like that because, by the way, if the Chargers could find a way to win, which is one, that's like almost an oxymoron because they just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
They just don't know how to do it. I mean, it's a weird thing with the Chargers. They can't win on a consistent basis. But if they did, the Chiefs would be 1-2.
Yeah, crazy.
1-2 now. So, and by the way, there's a really good chance the Raiders go to 3-0.
Yes. I would say, I know we're going to
talk. And by the way, Denver, really good chance they go to 3-0.
Yeah, Denver has the best chance of anybody, obviously, at home playing the Jets. We'll talk Survivor a little later, I think, but Raiders are not even a sleepy option, a decent option against the Dolphins at home.
All right, so I'm going to give you my game to keep an eye on. I got the Saints and the Patriots.
Interesting.
Who are these teams? Like, who's the Saints? They in Jacksonville 2 weeks ago, they thumped Green Bay.
Yeah.
Then they go to Carolina and get thumped. And now Carolina's 3-0, but come on now. They beat the Texans and the Jets, too. So how good – I don't know how good Carolina is. They might be good, but not great. Who knows? But they got thumped by them. They couldn't do anything. Alvin Kamara, ran for 7 yards?
7.
So, 11?
No, 7. You're right.
Oh, 7.
I'm just still sad about it.
Oh, well, me too. I got them on my fantasy team, too. And now the Patriots, they come away with – they got the one win. Mac Jones hasn't had to do a lot. What about Jameis Winston? And so one of these teams are going to be 1-2. And again, for the Saints, you're in the division with the Bucs, who could be 3-0.
Right.
So, and Carolina is 3-0. Mm-hmm. So you're really in a dangerous territory early. I wouldn't say the Patriots are in dangerous territory if they're 1-2, but kind of like seeing the Chiefs at 1-2, it would like pop off the standings if the Patriots went 1-2.
Yeah.
To start the year. Mac Jones or not. Again, I don't think the Patriots are great, but they usually know how to win football games. So to see them 1-2, I'm really interested in that game and see which Saints team shows up. I kind of know what Patriots team is going to be, but I wonder what Saints team is going to show up in that game.
Yeah.
I actually picked the Saints to win that game.
Wow.
In my fight for the Fedora on Countdown to Kickoff. That's a little heads up on that.
That seems bold, by the way. For the Patriots at home, I trust it. I think it's crazy that I'm saying this, but I am because it's true. I trust Mac Jones more than Jameis Winston.
Yeah, it is pretty wild, right? I mean, I'm not sure I would disagree with you, but it is a rookie quarterback at the end of the day. And the Saints do have a lot of talent now. You know, line them up, they've got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
So I think Sean Payton tries to figure out, get Alvin Kamara going as well, and maybe that helps Jameis Winston. All right, we got to take a break. We are live, ESPN 690, Game Day live at the Duuuval House. We'll be back. One more hour to go. We'll take you right up until 11. More Jags Cards talk, more NFL talk. What happened yesterday with some big players that could end up playing on Sunday real soon. We'll go there as well. Brent Martin, Casey Kurtz, live on ESPN 690 right after this.
This is ESPN 690 Game Day Live.
Sponsored by the Duuuval House.
Here's your host live from the Duuuval House, Brent Martineau.
Hey, welcome back. Game Day here in Jacksonville. Cardinals and the Jaguars, and we are live on ESPN 690. We started this last week We'll do it again every home game here in 2021. And we appreciate everybody from Phillips and Hunt and Folio Weekly 2.0 for having us out. This is the Duuuval House. You know what it is. Come off the Hart Bridge, take a left like you're going to the stadium, and you see the teal house. Well, that's where we're at, right on the front porch. So beep, say hello, come on by. It's a big party. I mean, inside the house we got food in there, and we got drinks on the back, and there's a bar out there in the back, and there's music all the way up until kickoff. So this is pretty cool what John Phillips and company have done, and each and every day for a home game in Jacksonville, we will be here. All 8 of them, 2 of them in the books, back-to-back weeks. Jags lost to the Broncos last week. They play the Cardinals here today, 1 o'clock. That game also is on Fox 30. Brent Martineau here on ESPN690 along with Casey Kurtz. Does a fantastic job helping us out with all our shows, but especially here on a Sunday morning. Getting up and out of bed early. Getting that fantasy football lineup set, right, Casey? Casey.
Close.
Casey Kurtz. I just put 2 names together, and we come up with Kersey.
Hey, it is what it is. I like it, actually. It kind of has a ring to it. The getting out of the bed part does not have a ring to it. I know you are not big sleep-in guy. You seem to always be awake, whether it's you're tweeting at 1 in the morning or you're tweeting at 7 in the morning that it's so great outside. So you're a big wake-up guy. I am not. But so this is different, but we're doing it. We're here, and we're thriving. I think we're thriving.
Well, we've both made it both times.
That's true.
So, we got that going for us.
Let me tell you how much my phone has been known to not do the alarm, but never when it's, like, important, if that makes sense. Like, I'm getting up to do something on my own, not, like, miss work important. So the last 2 Saturdays when I've went to bed and I knew I had this in the morning, terrified, Brent. Terrified, because I know that nothing happens if I'm not here. You'll just be sitting there talking to yourself, and nobody will hear it, and it scares me to death. So anyway, we're 2 for 2, and we're going for 3 for 3 next home game.
Yeah, and by the way, I will say I've been trying to sleep a little bit more, and I've been pretty effective at it. But yesterday we go off the Friday night blitz, and then I went to Kaylee's tournament, my daughter's tournament yesterday. And that was out in Clearmont, so we had an early wake-up call yesterday. So that was a short night.
Yeah.
So we got a short night on one of the weekend days, which is now you got to make sure you catch up a little bit the rest of the week. And this is a busy week because we obviously have all our shows, but it's a truncated week, and we'll do a 90-minute pregame on TV on Thursday because the Jags are in Cincinnati. So 2 games in 5 days for the Jags. That means 2 chances to break this losing streak of 17 games, and now 378 days long since the Jaguars won a football game over the Indianapolis Colts. That did happen here as well. I was trying to figure out today, it's like, I wonder the last time the Jags won a game with what was the highest spread that they overcame to win? So it's like 7.5 today. I don't think the Jags were I really don't believe the Jags were 7.5-point dogs when they beat the Colts last year.
I don't think so either, to be honest.
I don't. It wouldn't have been because it was like the first game of the year. Nobody knew they were going to be 1-15, So I'd be surprised if it was 7.5. I didn't really do a lot of research on it, but somebody might want to find that out because that'd be an interesting one. So what's their biggest upset of the last few years? Because keep in mind, in 2017, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? In 2018, they started out pretty good. Now,
you think there's any chance it was that Patriots game?
No, because they were good. I was thinking that too, but it was because they were good. So really, you might have to go to, and I forget the spread in this game too, but you might have to go to the Pittsburgh playoff game.
Wow.
Like that spread might have been over 7.5, and the Jags won. So I'm not trying to find out, hey, what's the biggest spread? I'm trying to find out what's the biggest spread with a Jags W.
The other one I'm looking at here that I don't remember the spread, but how about the Raiders on the road, that last game in Oakland in 19? They weren't good, and you had to go cross country. I mean, I really have a hard time believing it was more than 7, but it seems like 7 would have been right around the number.
That's a really good call. That could have been it. That could be it. That would have been when? That was 2019?
Yeah, in December. So late in the year. And it was that last game in Oakland. So you think that they would have, there would have been some. It was packed. I remember I watched it on TV, and I believe it was a Chris Conley touchdown that ended up winning the game for the Jags. But that seems
was
like
a wild fourth quarter for Minshew and the Jags, yeah.
So maybe that was it. That seems like it could be a candidate for it.
That's a good call. We're going to have to look that up, though. I was thinking of that today. So if anybody out there knows, let us know as well. Hey, I do want to welcome you to the Duuuval House, and we call it a Tailgate Fundraiser, F-U-N, capitalized, by the way. The Jags Pal, the Police Athletics League. Here's what Jags Pal does. It enriches the lives of children by creating positive relationships between law enforcement officers and the youth of the community. Nearly 9 out of 10 police chiefs nationwide say that expanding after-school programs is one of the most effective ways to reduce juvenile crime. And so more information and a ton of the programs that the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville has, go to jaxpal.org. That's jaxpal.org. More than 4,000 youth served annually with the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. So check it out, jaxpal.org. Thanks again to law offices of Phillips & Hunt and Folio 2.0, presenting sponsors, and also the Jacksonville Roller Derby, and, of course, the Jags Pal as well. Any donations here today, any tips at the bar, all go to the Jags Pal. So make sure you tip, and tip nicely, and help raise some dollars as well if you come on out to the Duuuval House all the way up until game time, and then some folks even hang around a little bit after as well. Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz here on a Sunday morning. The Jacksonville Jaguars need to get cooking, right? They need to find a win. And the big storylines of the week, I think, Casey, Urban Meyer had a different tone this week.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like there were almost like a realization that, hey, it's going to take a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be the guy to turn this around, and I'm not going to sit here and lose. But I also am not going to pull my hair out after every loss because it's going to take a little time.
Yeah, no.
I feel like he had almost that kind of realization, and that's not accepting losing. But he really did, I thought, a pretty good job from Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are the days he talks. And when he was on the podium this week, I thought he was pretty good, and he continues to stress keeping that locker room together, which through 2 games shouldn't be a problem, and I don't think that's a problem here in Jacksonville.
And I agree with you fully. And I think the biggest thing now looking back that worked against Urban Meyer and this team, obviously we all know that they have not won a game in a very long time. The problem was game 1 against Houston. Looking back, it's obvious. But if you flip these 2 games, you play the Cardinals week 1, you play Houston week 3, I think, and in same performance, you look really bad week 1, you look better week 2. I think we'd all pick them to win this game against Houston week 3. So that's what worked against them because we all thought they're going to beat Houston because of what Houston was. Houston ends up being better. They lose that game, and we all kind of fall back into what we've been for the last couple years. So I think that's what really worked against them. And now you can see that they are building on this. But, again, I'm telling you, if that game wasn't against Houston, we'd be like, okay, they're doing what we thought they would do. It's going to take time to build. We all just thought they would win week 1.
That's interesting perspective, and I think there is something that did throw everything for a loop. That was not anticipated, and especially not to look the way it did. And what it created was really zero opportunity for the Jaguars to kind of surprise people out of the gates.
Yeah.
Because once you lose that game, you're like, now you start trying to find – seriously, if you try to find wins, you'd say Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's ahead of the Jags too, and Cincinnati might be pretty good, and I hate being the road team on a Thursday, man. I just don't think that's an easy thing to do, and especially if you're not even that good to begin with. So
right.
I think that's a tougher game. Like, I don't think we can just say, well, that's Cincinnati. First of all, the Jags haven't earned the right to say that about anybody. But I think that's a tougher game. But anyway, you would identify Cincinnati as, okay, maybe that is a chance to win a game if you play well. And then the Titans come to town, and let's see what the Titans do today against the Colts and how we feel about the Titans when they do come to town. But if they look like the second-half Titans last week in Seattle,
yeah,
well, then you don't feel good about that, right?
No,
and the Jags have always had a problem against Tennessee anyway, especially in recent memory. So then the next game is London, and that's Miami. And I think, now we'll see what Miami looks like. There's some Miami believers out there, but Miami looked awful last week. They don't have Tua. They put him on injured reserve, which means he might, that's 3 games, so I guess he could come back for that London game potentially. But Miami right now seems a little messy. And so the Jags maybe going to London and get the first win, which can't wait to see those storylines when the Jags go to London and get the first one of the Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that would be
right?
something.
but take a win anywhere on the planet right now if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, because then we'll do a stat like they haven't won in the United States since, you know. So reasonably thinking to kind of reset the schedule, even if they won in Cincinnati and then beat the Dolphins in London, you go to the break and you have 2 wins, you're 2-4, which really would put you about 1 game behind where we thought the best case scenario would be of the Jaguars.
Yeah.
You know, so again, can you steal a win today? Can you steal a win against Tennessee? The NFL doesn't work the way we think it's going to work. I give you week 1.
Yeah.
So I think if you can reset this thing somehow, I think 2 wins by the bye would be, I mean, right now you'd say, wow, right? I mean, 2 wins by the bye in this first 6 games would be reasonable. Wouldn't be the best case, but it would be reasonable, and I think everybody right now would sign up for 2-2 over the next 4 games for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we'll see if they're able to get this thing back on track in that regard. Trevor Lawrence, I think he has a big day, man. I think he has, well, I shouldn't say a big day. Big day means like 4 touchdowns at 350 yards. No, I think he has the day that he should have. I think they craft this thing more to Trevor Lawrence, the rookie quarterback, the young guy we're trying to bring along, rather than throwing him to the wolves and saying, Trevor, we need you to do a lot because nobody's making plays around you, and, well, you're the first overall pick.
Yeah.
So I think this is the day Trevor Lawrence plays well. And really, I think the X factor in this game is Darrell Bevell. And I don't think Bevell's a bad offensive coordinator. I think he's got off to a bad start in Jacksonville because he cannot find a rhythm to this offense. To me, that's the offensive coordinator's job. Sure, DJ Chark, other receivers, they can catch the ball. I mean, there's 7 drops in the first 2 weeks. The offensive line has kind of done its job, although there was a lot of penalties in week 1. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been great at times. Well, the offensive coordinator's job is to marry all that together and put his players in the best situation possible. The players eventually have to make the plays. But when we can point out that James Robinson hasn't had enough touches, when we can point out that guys like DJ Chark can't get going, I think that's on the offensive coordinator. And so I think this is a big day for Darrell Bevell to kind of find the rhythm of this offense and find the rhythm for the rookie because it's all about his growth. Darrell Bevell, I've got my eyes on. How does he call this game? Did a great job on the first drive last week and then did nothing after that. And, again, that was partly Trevor and the players. But I think this is a huge game for Darrell Bevell and the offensive coordinator for the Jags.
And I agree with you fully. But the other thing I want to look at, and somehow, by the way, Brent, we made it an hour and 15 minutes and have not mentioned Chandler Jones or J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
So for me, obviously the offensive line play that you have advocated for a lot in the offseason, Trevor Lawrence has not been sacked a ton, which is good. However, the X factor today for me is you got to call the right plays, obviously. You got to keep Trevor Lawrence upright, and that's going to be the toughest task of this offensive line potentially all year. J.J. Watt, we know what he's capable of. We've seen it happen a lot. He hasn't sacked Trevor Lawrence yet. He sacked Blake Bortles a couple times, but he hasn't sacked Trevor Lawrence yet, and obviously Chandler Jones. So I think you obviously can't win this game if Chandler Jones did what he did a couple weeks ago when he had, 4 or 5 sacks. So I think it's going to be important to keep Trevor Lawrence clean. You got to call the right plays, but I'm just amazed we made it this far into the show and haven't mentioned those guys.
Yeah, look, Demetrius Harvey just tweeted this out too, and I tweeted something out yesterday that I think even the Jags caught on and saw. That they are tied for second with the fewest sacks in the league. Now, be very careful with stats in 2 weeks into an NFL season. But I do think there's this narrative all offseason over the years, the Jags offensive line's terrible. Well, there's really 2 measurables for an offensive line. And it doesn't tell the complete story. There's some game-within-a-game stuff. Penalties really hurt the offensive line the first week. They were awful at them. They're really bad.
Yeah.
But they only gave up 1 sack in 51 attempts, which you go ask any GM and coach across the league, and they'll be like, dang. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know? Now, it felt hurried. It didn't feel clean all the time. Trevor maybe saved some of that. But still, the numbers say 1 sack, 51 pass attempts. 1 sack last week. And then you add 2 sacks. That's second fewest in the NFL, tied for with like 5 teams through 2 weeks. Only San Francisco is better. They've given up 1 sack through 2 games. And they certainly haven't thrown it nearly as much as the Jags. And then you look at the run stats, that when they do run the ball, they're coming off at 4.5 to 5 yards a clip. So, I mean, those are 2 stats that the offensive line gets judged on.
Yeah.
And the offensive line is doing a pretty good job. Now, Demetrius Harvey covers the Jags as well, just tweeted this out. Jags entered today's game ranked number 1 in pass protection, according to Football Outsiders, includes just 2 sacks allowed. They are 5th-ranked O-line in the NFL overall, which includes adjusted line yards of 4.93. So, listen, there's plenty of room to blame to go around, but you just can't blame the offensive line right now. I think the Jags' problem right now is really guys on the outside, offensive coordinator not getting James Robinson the ball, and then your kicker missing kicks. I feel like it's veteran guys around Trevor not playing well enough. Now, that veteran offensive line is playing pretty well for the young man. So you got to give credit where credit is due. This would be a big deal if the Jaguars pace out a season of 17 games and say they give up 20 to 25 sacks. I mean, if that is what this offensive line is, that is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because I will go back and show you stats. Blake Bortles was sacked over 50 times. His rookie year, he didn't even play every game, and he was sacked over 50 times.
Right.
Blaine Gabbert, I don't know the numbers. I forget them, but I'll go back and look. But you know how that went down. Yeah. Blaine Gabbert was scared to take a snap by the end of the year because he got hit so many times. So it would be massive if Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hit on every play and is sacked, say, 23 times in 2021, and the offensive line would have done their job. But you're right. You have 2 guys on that other side, very Von Miller, Bradley Chubb-esque, and Chubb, again, wasn't healthy and didn't even play the whole game last week. This is a tall task. Chandler Jones, I think, is like maybe the most underrated player in the league. J.J. Watt, I don't think he's nearly as good as he used to be. Not even close. I talked to somebody this week, and they said, look at the tape, and it's just a guy. So, but he also has owned the Jaguars.
Right.
He has just owned – he's been a Jags wrecker. Chandler Jones now, they say, look at the tape, and it's like, whoa. You know, that is going to be a tough guy. Like, watch out, he doesn't get a hat trick today. Yeah. So Chandler Jones is very disruptive, and the Jags have to do a good job against him. Combined, those 2 have 203 career sacks. What's crazy to me, and this shows you the underrated nature of Chandler Jones, is Chandler Jones has 102. J.J. Watt has 101.
Wow.
Nobody would ever think that.
It's a heck of a trivia question. You could win some money on that one.
Yeah. Nobody would ever think that. So the Jags will have their hands full. I think, though, that Budda Baker, I think Isaiah Simmons, I think some of that, too, is part of this. And they have some talented players on defense. They're not a great defense. And the way their offense plays, they put pressure on their defense. But they have playmakers on defense that can really disrupt things. And so I think the Jags have to be careful of that, hang on to the football. And if they can protect the football, maybe this is the day they get some turnovers as well. Hey, we are live at the Duuuval House, Phillips and Hunt, and Folio Weekly 2.0. Also special thanks to Jacksonville Roller Derby and, of course, Jack's Pal, Police Athletic League. They are the recipient of any donations made today here at the Duuuval House. It is ESPN 690 Game Day Live from the Duuuval House, right at the foot of the Hart Bridge, the Teal House. I'm on the porch, ESPN 690 tent out there. We're giving away like 12 packs of Polar Seltzer. How about that? You get a freebie by walking by.
How about that? That Polar Seltzer, man, it's not fun to carry up and down stairs, I'll tell you that, if anybody's done that for fun.
No, you have done that. Appreciate it. By the way, mix that with a little something, and you're okay.
Something, says Brent Martineau.
Something, depending on your taste buds.
There you go.
That's what I would do with that seltzer.
You do what you got to do, man.
You got to come by and get one first. There we go. We'll be back. We'll take you up until 11 o'clock, and then I'll run over to TV. Countdown to kickoff on the TV side comes up at 11:30 on CBS 47. The game today is on Fox 30 at 1 o'clock. We'll have a post-game show on our Action News Jax app right after that, hopefully if our Jags win. And then later tonight, it's Action Sports Jax primetime, 10:30 on Fox 30, 11:30 on CBS 47. It's a football day. CBS 47, Fox 30, ESPN 690. It rolls on right after this.
You know, we worked on, you know, covering a little longer, little plaster plays. Whatever it takes, we got to make it happen. And I feel like our D-line is really going to get after. Our rush game is really going to get started. And, you know, I have faith in that front seven that we're going to make some things happen. You know, and I'm telling them in the back end, we might have to cover a little longer, no matter whatever it takes. Let's make our plays. Let's win our one-on-one battles. You know, and it's going to be a challenge, you know, but this is the part that we live for. This is the reason why you want to be in this profession, in this league, to go against some of the best guys, you know, to go against some elite players. This competition, you got to love that. You got to feel that. So, trust me, these guys are excited for it. I'm excited for it.
That is Shaquille Griffin on Jaguars All Access. Once again, a reminder, this week it'll be Wednesday, 7 o'clock on Fox 30 with Shaq. Actually, Shaq, I don't know if we'll have Shaq this week, virtually even, because they'll be traveling to Cincinnati. So probably not. Actually, Kyle Brady is going to join me on set. I know that part. And that will be at Strings Sports Grill, Strings Sports Brewery, right in Springfield. And you can come on by. We'll have the radio show there from 3 until 6, and then we will do TV 7 until 7:30. Wednesday this week. But after that, normal show with the usual crew, and Shaq Griffin joins us virtually each and every Thursday for Jaguars All Access. This week gets shuffled around a little bit because of the Thursday night game. Jaguars in Cincinnati. Today, they're right here in Jacksonville, and we are hanging out right at the foot of the Hart Bridge. You come down the Hart Bridge, you take a left, you see a teal house. Well, that's where we're at. I'm on the front porch, and this is ESPN690 Game Day Live from the Duuuval House, presented by Phillips & Hunt, and also Jacksonville Roller Derby, Jacks Police Athletic League. They are the beneficiary of our fundraising efforts today, and also Folio Weekly 2.0. Brent Martineau here, Casey Kurtz as well on a Sunday morning. We do this every home game, which has been a lot of fun. Love talking the NFL, love talking the Jags. Let's talk a little Saturday football for a moment. Casey, we did this last week. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Who played well on Saturday that we can project to Sundays next year and keep our eye on? This is not really draft talk now. Who knows where the Jags will draft? And this isn't a draft, by the way, that eventually will be, hey, you got to tank for that guy, right?
Yeah.
That has a totally different field. In fact, we'll talk more about this tomorrow from 3 to 6 on our show. But I think right now one of the big problems in college football is there's not good quarterback play. And that's why it's a wide-open race in college football. That's why you're seeing teams lose. That's why you're seeing teams contested against others that are, why is that team still in the game? That Alabama maybe still stands apart there. And maybe even Georgia, because they're so good around those quarterbacks. But I think it's a wide-open race in college football because the quarterback play is just so-so. Emory Jones played a really good game for Florida yesterday.
He did.
But can he do that week in, week out? Who knows? So who are we keeping an eye on from Saturday to the Sundays?
Yeah, we got a couple of guys, and last week we went pretty chalk. We talked about Sam Howell and those guys. Real quick, Brent, if you follow us on Facebook, you saw the picture. That Facebook is ESPN690 Jacks on Facebook. Go ahead and like and share and do those things. I posted our picks. We did 3 college football and 3 NFL from our show, 3 to 6. Brent, you got 2 wins yesterday. That brings you up to, I hate to play you out like this because some people may not know, but that brings you up to 6 for the year. I won't tell you how many games we picked.
And I got 3 more to go today, so I might be hot this week.
Yeah, this might be your best week yet. So I just wanted to throw it out there. You got a couple of wins. Everybody got 2 wins, by the way. And by the way, I knew Wisconsin was no good, and I picked them anyway. Anyway, let's go to the new, next year's studs, obviously, and let's talk first about Breece Hall. He's the running back for Iowa State. Obviously, you don't you can draft running backs high, but you got to be sure. You got to be absolutely sure. This guy yesterday, though, 27 carries, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. Iowa State, as it turns out, Brent, they are not going to win the college football championship. They are not going to be the national champions like I may have thought they would. However, Breece Hall is very good. So you got to keep an eye on that guy. We are the flagship, by the way, the Florida State Seminoles. If you did not know, you could hear all those games right here on ESPN 690. And there's really only one guy to talk about, and that's Jermaine Johnson. He's a transfer from Georgia. He had another sack yesterday that brings him up to 5.5 on the season. That is first in college football. Guy is electric. He is slowly making it, well, actually not even slowly. He's quickly making his way up draft boards. He will not be the first pass rusher off the board because of Thibodeau at Oregon will be potentially the first overall pick in the draft. Jermaine Johnson, though, got to give him some love. He's very, very good. The next 3 guys are interesting. You might not have ever heard their names, so I'll tell you about them. The first is Jalen Foster. He is a DB from South Carolina. Yesterday he had 12 tackles and an interception against Kentucky. He has 3 interceptions on the season, but here's what's interesting. His freshman year he played in 2016 at Gardner-Webb, and he had 5 interceptions. He then transfers to South Carolina, sits out 2017. His next 2 years, he did not have a single interception.
Wow.
Not one. This year he has 3. So that's pretty cool. Also something to keep an eye on there, South Carolina in the last 3 drafts has had 3 DBs selected. So this guy's probably in good hands there with that. So then another guy we got to talk about, the only quarterback on the list this week comes from Liberty. Now, granted, proud alum of the University of North Florida. They do not have a football team, but they do play Liberty in basketball, and it's usually not pretty. But with that being said, Malik Willis from Liberty, he was 14 of 19 for 205 and 3 touchdowns passing yesterday. He also ran for 49 yards. This season, in total, he's completed 71.5% of his passes for 818 yards, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, 187.2 rating. He's also ran for 274 and 4. Watch out for this guy. There's 2 quarterbacks. We'll talk about another one later in the season as he kind of gains steam. But this is one of the guys. He fits what guys are doing in the NFL right now. That's running and passing. So watch out for this guy, Malik Willis from Liberty. And we got to give some love to a big guy. We're going to do it every single week, an offensive lineman. Give me Tyler Lindenbaugh from Iowa. They seem to just be a factory of big, blocking, strong dudes on the offensive line. This is another one. He's a first-round pick guaranteed in the next draft.
All right, good work. Who knows about those offensive linemen as well, but that's a good rundown of a list. By the way, Hall, like you said, I think people know him. Jermaine Johnson, real quick thought on him. I think it really says something about a kid that can play well on a bad football team.
Yeah.
You know? And their defense did play well yesterday. I listened to most of the way home in the second half because I was driving. And right on ESPN690, got it all the way in the Orlando area, by the way. If you want to listen to the Knowles or listen to us, ESPN690 comes in loud and clear.
Yes, it does.
No doubt about it. All right, Jalen Foster, that's a good note. Malik Willis, this guy was really good last year. He's an outside candidate, by the way, for Heisman Trophy coming into the year.
Yeah.
What's interesting about him is he's kind of a small guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with a player like Kyler Murray and what he does now in the NFL, you wonder if it opens the door for a guy like Malik Willis. And I'm not calling Malik Willis Kyler Murray, but he could be that kind of player, and maybe more people go to this style and maybe gets a chance in the NFL and maybe effective. Keep in mind, a lot of good quarterbacks over the years, a lot, don't come from the Power 5 schools. They come out of these schools like Eastern Illinois, right?
Yeah.
So it's not it can happen. And Malik Willis is really good. Now, this isn't just a one-off thing. This guy's been getting it done for a couple of years. So I think he's an interesting player to keep an eye on, maybe around draft time. I don't even know how he projects to the NFL potentially, but it just reminded me of today. You bring it up, and he comes off a good game. But Kyler Murray certainly can run around, do those things. Doesn't have all the measurables, but fantastic, and it's working in the NFL.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on it.
He's a talented guy, and just to close out the college football talk, the Heisman is wide open, open as it may have ever been. So this guy is very much in the conversation now when you have kind of the Blue Bloods have been losing games. No one is standing out. Bryce Young is not even standing out. It's wide open. It's going to be interesting to watch, but this guy's in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. The more college football talk and kind of the state of it coming up tomorrow, 3 o'clock on ESPN 690 as well. Let's go around the NFL for a couple other games. You'll do this more in length and also give us some fantasy football coming up before the end of the show when I have to take off and hustle on over to the stadium for countdown to kickoff. So a few more Jags topics on the way as well. But you look at the Colts-Titans, what a huge game, right? I mean, this was almost an 0-2 game. The whole division was almost 0-2 other than Houston.
Crazy.
And they're now 1-2.
Yeah.
So, but the Titans snuck out a win, and that was huge. It might have changed the course of their season, quite frankly, winning that game over Seattle. The Colts, it looks like Carson Wentz is going to play. He's got 2 sprained ankles, but he practiced this week, and now it looks like he's going to play in the game. At last check is what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up Chargers-Chiefs. I already brought up Saints-Patriots. But that Colts-Titans game, could be a big one because someone's just not going to be who we thought they were,
Mm-hmm.
And most likely it's the Colts. But if the Titans regress, and let's just say the Titans play poorly, Well, you're talking about 12 quarters of football, and they've played poorly for like 10 of them.
Yeah.
So that's a big game, I think.
No, I agree. I think it says something about the Titans to win in Seattle. That's a tough thing to do anyway, and they did that last week in exciting fashion. Look, this is in my opinion, Brent, this is a sleeper survivor pool pick for the Titans. And now, granted, I've said some things about the Titans on Action Sports Jacks 3 to 6 on the weekdays. I probably won't go into them because this is a Jags show. But anyway, if you listen, you get the idea. I've said some things about the Titans. The Titans, with Carson Wentz and all of his ankles are sprained somehow, all of them. I think the Titans win this game. But I do think it is interesting because if the Colts fall to 0-3, we've talked about how tough their schedule is. It's yikes time for the Colts now that they have Carson Wentz. I won't say it hasn't worked out yet, but they are 0-2. This is a big game for both teams, but I just think the Titans are a better football team.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know if I trust the Colts. I think the Colts have a lot more warts than any of us thought they did have. And by the way, we still don't know if Carson Wentz is back or what he is, and now he's playing hurt and all this stuff. So it doesn't line up well, in my opinion, for the Colts. I just tweeted this, and I said this earlier this week, Tuesdays from Top Golf, which we do with Josh Scobie from 5 to 6 every Tuesday. And we're actually there our entire show at Top Golf on Tuesday, so come on out. But if you look at the schedule, the Colts schedule's so hard to start the year. The Titans schedule, if they win this game, it's not hard the next couple of weeks. It includes like the Texans and the Jags.
Yeah.
And they seriously, by October 10th, could win the AFC South for all intents and purposes. And they will have a 3-game lead. If they win this game today, they will have a 3-game lead by October 10th, most likely, over any of their closest competitors in the AFC South. And by the way, that might be like Houston.
Right. And
so,
yeah.
I mean, it's a big game for the Colts to stay in it and see if we're going to have two teams in the AFC South. And even then, that might say more about the Titans. The AFC South might be a complete dumpster fire by the end of today.
I think it's tracking that way, unfortunately, for this division. But look, I mean, the Colts, if you're a Colts fan right now, you have to feel like the sky is falling. Like you may not have been sold on Carson Wentz, but it is crazy to go from where you were, perennial Super Bowl team, to obviously what happened with Andrew Luck, which is a whole different story. And then you think you have some with Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, and you look good last year, and you're like, all right, we're that piece away. Carson Wentz, like, I think if you're a Colts, it's got to be tough right now to be the diehard Colts fan because you went from we're great to what happened? What happened? We're bad? Like, it happened so fast.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, here's one other little game I want to play with you here. Give me a game, because I think there are a lot of dud-looking games.
Mm-hmm.
All right? The Bills in Washington, it doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the Bills seem like they'll get on track. Maybe Washington surprised. They surprised on the Thursday night game. They get extra time to prepare. Heineke, there seems like there's a little magic in him.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe there is something. Chicago, the Browns, doesn't do much for me. Ravens, Lions, this should be a blowout, right? We already brought up the other games that are pretty good, but Falcons, Giants, like snooze fest, it looks like on paper.
Even
Bengals,
for you, huh, Brett?
Steelers. What's that?
Even for you, a snooze fest, Daniel Jones and the boys?
Yeah. The Bengals, Steelers, Steelers just don't play an exciting brand of football for me, so I doubt that's anything great. Cardinals, Jags, Jets, Broncos, Dolphins, Raiders. Dolphins scored 0 points last week.
Yeah.
Bucks, Rams obviously is very good. Seahawks, Vikings has a chance to be good. So out of some of those bad games,
mm-hmm.
like Jets, Broncos, even Jags, Cardinals, which someone would say across the, it's not going to be close. Dolphins, Raiders, Bengals, Steelers, Falcons, Giants, Ravens, Lions, Bears, Browns, Washington, Bills. Give me the surprise, really good, fun, entertaining game.
Giants, Falcons. And I hate to I hate to be excited to watch Daniel Jones play. But here's the thing. Falcons defense, none of it. Giants defense, not a whole lot of it. So I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in that game. I think Daniel Jones is, in at least daily fantasy, one heck of an option. He's going to be cheap He's going to be running the ball. He's going to be doing the things that makes Brent Martineau think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. But I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. You know, Matt Ryan can throw it around. Daniel Jones is going to do what he can do. I think it's going to be better than expected, and I think it's a sleeper survivor pool game as well, because I think the Giants win this game at home. And if you can use the Giants in your survivor pool this week, man, that would save you going forward in the season to save teams that you might use this week, like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Titans, even the Raiders. You can save those teams and go with the Giants, but it's hard to hedge your bets on the Giants.
All right, as you can see hear another police escort here right out front of the Duuuval house. I think that might have been Shad Khan. Might have been Jaguars owner Shad Khan getting to the stadium. Just a guess. I couldn't tell for sure.
Probably had some tinted windows, can't really see in.
Yeah, I couldn't tell for sure, but it might have been. So that's what was going on in the background here. I'm going to give you one. I think this could – and by the way, I did okay on Saturday with the surprise watch out for NC State. I even had West Virginia as one of those. So maybe I'm hot this week. But I think the Jets are going to play a lot better today. I think Zach Wilson's played so poor. I think Murphy's Law says he'll play better. I think Chubb being out helps. I think the Broncos are a little fluffed up right now. I think Bridgewater's been playing a little over his head, quite frankly. Keep an eye on that Jets-Broncos game, which should scare some survival pool people if you trust me.
Yeah,
which I wouldn't trust me. I would still think I'd take it as a survival pool. I just think it might be a little more entertaining than people think it's going to be. It looks on paper like a blowout, you know?
And what are the odds that we both didn't talk about this beforehand and we're talking about the Giants and the Jets? Like, what are the odds of that? I just didn't see that one coming, but, hey, here we are.
Here we are. All right, let's take a break. It's ESPN 690 Game Day Live from the Duuuval House, presented by Phillips & Hunt, and also the Folio 0.0, Jacksonville Roller Derby, and benefits the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Also brought to you by Polar Seltzer, as you can see right in front of me. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, or listening in your car on ESPN 690, on the stream, ESPN690.com. You can also, the newest way to listen is the Relevant app. Check that out. Really cool. Just download the Relevant app, one click of a button, boom, we're right there. Anywhere. And you can interact, and we can have some fun with it. Relevant, RELEVNT. So not spelled the usual way. Relevant, RELEVNT, the Relevant app. I downloaded it this week. Come on board with us. We'll have some fun with it. We go back and forth. Join the vibe on ESPN 690 with the Relevant app. We'll be right back here from the Duuuval House on a Sunday morning. Game Day Live, Jags and Cardinals, and the rest of the NFL Week 3 here from the River City.
I love Trevor Lawrence. I love everything about that guy. I know Jacksonville will or does. Is he having some growth pains? And like I've always said from day one, this goes back 20 years. The quarterback gets a lot of the glory when you win and get a lot of that fingers pointed out when he loses. It's an offense. You know, that one common characteristic of every great quarterback is he has a great team around him. Every great quarterback has that, and we will do that. And we're growing that right now. So. Yeah, that kid, he's unbelievable to coach. He's everything about the guy is an A+.
That is Urban Meyer on Trevor Lawrence. I think it's still the one thing that we're all clinging on. Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. We know it. It'll happen. Can they be good around him? Can they be better around him at this point in his career? That is going to be big. Brent Martineau, Casey Kurtz. We call it ESPN 690 Game Day Live from the Duuuval house right here on the foot of the Hart Bridge. Got a lot of traffic coming down the bridge, by the way, today. So make sure you prepare yourself for that if you're listening. Hopefully you are in your car on the way to the game on ESPN 690. And this is brought to you by Phillips & Hunt and also brought to you by Folio Weekly 2.0. All the dollars raised today, if there are dollars, which are tip jars and things like that, it doesn't cost to get into here, but any dollars raised will go toward the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. So come on by, say hello. Plus, there'll be a raffle, and those dollars will go to the Jack's Pal Relaxation Basket Wind Down, Aromatherapy Basket, Jag Swag, Peterbrook Chocolate Basket. They'll also give away T-shirts, lanyards, pens, caps, towels. So come on by the Duuuval house. You know where it is. It is painted in teal, and we're on the front porch until 11 o'clock. All right, let's find a way for a Jags upset. Can we do that, Casey Kurtz?
Well, it has to revolve around James Robinson. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's how I see it anyway. You gotta give the ball to James Robinson. He needs to be last year's James Robinson, which I still think he is. He just hasn't had the chance to show it yet. And you got to make Kyler Murray uncomfortable. Get some turnovers. It's going to take a lot, Brent, not going to lie to you, but I think it all starts with James Robinson.
Yeah, I think so too. I think James Robinson has to have 20 touches. I said earlier 20 catches on Twitter, but it's 20 touches. 20 catches and the Jags might score 1 million. 20 touches, and I think DJ Chark. Yeah, it's been a theme for me this week. DJ Chark and James Robinson are doing nothing for this offense for different reasons, but they're doing nothing, and one's a Pro Bowl player and one was Pro Bowl caliber last year. And so I think those two guys have to step up. I mean, they have to help out the rookie. The play caller has to get James Robinson the football. DJ Chark has to get separation. DJ Chark has to catch the ball. DJ Chark has to break away on a big play. Those things have to happen. And I think, let's call it 6+ catches for DJ Chark for, I don't know, maybe it's 80, 90 yards. I'm not even going crazy, but a touchdown. And James Robinson getting 20+ touches on the day. I think that's how you find your upset. And by the way, that might not lead to the upset because turnovers might have to happen in this game too. I feel like the Jags have to get a 3-turnover game. And that's asking a lot because they haven't had one.
Right.
They haven't had one turnover. And I think they've got to get a 3-turnover game to win this football game. So they say they come in bunches. Maybe they do, and the Jags could use that. So we'll see if that's what happens. But I think that's the way you find the upset. Turnovers, DJ Chark, James Robinson. And if those things happen, I think Trevor Lawrence then plays his best football game of the year so far. Again, very small sample, probably not saying much. But if those things happen, that makes him more comfortable. His skill set can show. He can make a play or two, but doesn't have to make every. I think that's how the Jaguars win this football game here in Jacksonville today. It's tough, but I think that's how they get it done. We'll see if they can pull it off. Hey, I'm going to hand off to you. You got some fantasy football to get to and also the Jags schedule. I'm going to hustle over to the stadium. Countdown to kickoff coming up 11:30 on CBS 47, and then a 1 o'clock kick on Fox 30. We'll see you after the game on CBS 47, Fox 30 as well. And then tomorrow it will be us back here breaking it all down on ESPN 690 at 3 p.m. Marcel Robinson just dropped me off a pass, by the way. He stopped his car, ran out of his car, put it on the tent, and then hopped back in his car. So
Guy's
you should
an
have seen
athlete.
him go.
Guy
I mean,
is
he
an
is an
athlete.
athlete right there. They might want to throw him at the wideout position today.
Oh, my
They
goodness.
might want to put him at that was like MVP kind of stuff from Marcel Robinson right there.
Hey, he had.
I wish I got it on video.
On Friday, he was in the studio wearing that football helmet that we keep in the studio. We should bring it to him. Marcel, we need you. If you're listening, Marcel, we need you. You're an athlete. Come on, man. We need
That
you.
was great. I wish I could have showed that to you exactly what happened. I wish my camera was turned that way so you could have it in the background. It was classic. Marcel Robinson, early MVP here on a Sunday. You're not too far behind, Casey Kurtz. Take it away, man. Have a good rest of the day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, but let's keep it locked right here on ESPN 690 until 11.
Thank you, Brent. Sounds good, man. Countdown to kickoff. We'll be ready for that here in a little bit, 11:30. We got about 6 minutes left here, ESPN 690 Game Day Live. Let's run down the schedule. Let's talk some fantasy. Let's do all the things in this short amount of time. And let's start with the Chargers-Chiefs. We talked about that a little bit. The Chiefs will be giving 7 points at home. I'm interested in that game. We talked about it a little bit, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. Fantasy standpoint, you have to be looking for Austin Eckler here. I don't think that 7 points holds up, so I would take the Chargers and the points in that one. Obviously, the Cardinals, Jags, you know about that situation. If you listen, Action Sports Jax, ESPN 690 from 3 to 6 during the week, you know we picked that game. The spread is 7.5. I hate to tell you, folks, I'm taking the Cardinals laying the 7.5. That's just what it is. Bears and Browns. Browns will be at home. Bears will start Justin Fields in his first career start. I think that's an interesting game, but it is a bad matchup for a first start. Cleveland minus 7.5 at home. If you believe in Justin Fields, take the Bears and the points, but I think it's a bad matchup. But the Cleveland has not been good on defense. They gave up a lot of points to the Texans last week before Tyrod Taylor went out. So you do have that working for you. But that is one to watch if you are an Ohio State fan. Justin Fields, obviously. A guy who Brent Martineau thought was going to be our quarterback for a little bit, but worked out. We got old Trevor Lawrence. Bills and football team. That would be the Washington football team in Buffalo. It's hard to pick against Buffalo at home. Josh Allen and the boys are pretty good. They are giving 7 points. I would take Buffalo and those points, although I do like the football team. I think Taylor Heineke has something going, just not this week. I think the Bills are a juggernaut. We spent some time talking Colts and Titans. I take the Titans. I take the points. I don't believe in this Colts team. Titans are only laying 5, so I'd take the Titans minus 5 there. No problem in that. Saints, Patriots, we talked about that a little bit as well. I trust Mac Jones over Jameis Winston. That's a tough thing to say. And I think it's hard to bet on the Saints in this game due to the fact that you don't know what Jameis Winston you're going to get. Obviously, it's been two completely different Jameis Winstons. Week 1 right here in Jacksonville, Jameis Winston does his thing. They smack the Packers. That was not the case last week. I'm riding with the Patriots here at home. I trust Mac Jones from the Bulls school. The Patriots are given 2.5, so they got to win by a field goal. I think they can do that against the Saints. But I'd like to see Alvin Kamara get going for fantasy standpoint, but that is what it is. Falcons, Giants, we talked about that a little bit. Giants are at home. I think in daily fantasy, by the way, Giants laying 2.5 points. In daily fantasy, I think you have to consider Daniel Jones here, which is words I didn't think I would say. But look, in his first 2 starts, Daniel Jones in a daily format, 22 and 29 points. I think you're right in the middle for that this week. He's a cheaper option. He's priced cheaper than guys like Tannehill, Mayfield, Derek Carr in that mix. So I think Daniel Jones is an option here. Also, Sterling Shepard has been nothing but incredible for the Giants. So if he does give it a go today, definitely consider him daily and regular fantasy. If he's on your bench, you might want to put him in. Bengals, Steelers. It's tough to know what you're getting from the Steelers, but it also is tough to know what you're getting from the Bengals. We'll check the line on that one. And at home, the Steelers are going to be minus 2.5, so they got to win by a field goal. Cincinnati's played tough this year. This is a game that the Steelers should win and cover the points, but that is no guarantee. Ravens, Lions, folks, I'm not going to lie to you. That's Ravens. I don't know what the points are. Take them. Broncos, Jets, Brent Martineau talked about that a little bit. He thinks that's going to be more exciting than it should be. The situation with that is Denver is laying 10 points at home. It is Denver's first home game of the year. The Jets will travel there. 10 is a lot of points in the NFL. In college football, it's not. In the NFL, 10 is a lot of points. That number scares me, but at the same time, you have to trust Zach Wilson there. I don't do that, but I also don't trust the 10 points. That's a yikes, folks. I guess I'm taking the 10 points in Denver, but I just in general would stay away from that game. That would be my advice to you there. The Dolphins will travel to Vegas and take on the Raiders. Vegas, by the way, apparently is the most college football atmosphere in the NFL in that brand new stadium in Vegas. That does not surprise me. 3.5 points being laid by the Raiders at home. Give me the Raiders by more than 4. I think the Raiders are really, really good. They stay undefeated. We're going to skip this one for a second and quickly touch on Seahawks-Vikings. Vikings in shambles. They've had a rough time to start this season. They are getting 2 points at home against Seattle. I think Seattle wins it pretty comfortably. Minnesota falls to 0-3. Tonight, you got Packers 49ers. The line is 3 there. Aaron Rodgers has had a tough time beating the San Francisco 49ers in his career. I think giving points to Aaron Rodgers is something that you have to look at. He's getting 3 of them. I'd consider it. I bet +3 here on our picks, Action Sports Jacks, ESPN690, 3-6. I'd give Aaron Rodgers the points. I trust him. And your Monday night game, Eagles-Cowboys. Cowboys are giving 3.5 to the Eagles in Dallas. Give me the 3.5. Give me the Eagles. Austin Lane, that's for you. That's for you, my guy. Let's go back to Rams-Bucks. Obviously, the game of the week. It is at 4:25 today in L.A. If you are a fantasy player, not daily, but yearly, Henderson, the running back for the Rams, who, by the way, was not a great option against the Bucs defense anyway. Darrell Henderson is believed that he will not go in this game. So if he's in your lineup and you're one of those people that don't change it every now and again, take him out. He looks like he's not going to play. And you should take him out anyway due to the fact the Bucs defense at stopping the run is a thing. Sony Michel is likely to start in that game for the Rams. That does not make him a must-start candidate just because he's the starting running back. I think the Bucs, it's a tough task to run the ball against the Bucs. I would not do it. But that's obviously the game of the week. The spread is 1 singular point. The Rams are +1 at home. I picked the Bucs. I was the only one on our show to pick the Bucs, and I'm sticking with it. The Bucs go to 3 now. I think the Rams are really good, but I think Tom Brady and the boys get it done. I think Leonard Fournette scores a couple of touchdowns for my fantasy team, but it is what it is. But we're out of time, just like that. It was a good time. ESPN 690 Game Day Live. Brent Martineau was at the Duuuval house. I am here in studio. Brent is off right now to get ready. Countdown to kickoff. That's going to come up in 30 minutes. Get you ready for the Jags. The whole crew, Stuart Weber, should call him by his full name, Stuart Weber, Marcel Robinson, who you just heard was the MVP, an athlete. Got to get this guy on the field for the Jags. Overall athlete. Brent Martineau, Olivia Tassley, the whole squad will be getting you ready for that one. Obviously, you got the Jags game at 1. Make your way down to the stadium, find some tickets, do the things, go support the team. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 3. Austin Lane, Brent Martineau, myself. We'll talk about this game. We'll talk about all the games around the NFL. A lot to get to. Even some college football. We talked a little bit of that as well. But that's going to do it. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the last day of the weekend. We'll be back with you tomorrow. I'm Casey Kurtz. Appreciate you listening on all the platforms, on the radio as well. Get ready for Countdown to Kickoff in 30 minutes. We'll talk to you on Monday. ESPN 690. We out.